Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome once again to the weekly live webinar presented by Affinity Federal Credit Union. Today's topic is interviewing skills. It's a fantastic topic to learn from on how to conduct ourselves in our next interview to land our next working opportunity. My name is Oscar Cordova, and I'll be your host today. I'm an external affairs specialist here at Affinity, and I'm in charge of the financial education efforts of the credit union focused in the areas that we serve. Before we begin, I would like to go over this brief disclaimer. The disclaimer states that the information provided to all of you this afternoon is for information purposes only. It is not intended to be legal, tax, or financial advice. Every person's situation is different, and if you are in need to talk to a professional about any of these topics, please reach out, and I'll be more than happy to connect you with someone that can provide advice on a financial, tax, or legal for legal matters. Okay. As a reminder, the webinar is being recorded, and the link to watch the presentation again will be shared with all of you in a follow-up email that I will be sent in the near future. It could be tonight or tomorrow morning. Also, if you have any questions that you would like to ask during the presentation, feel free to use your Q&A option, and I'll be more than happy to address the questions at the end of the webinar. With that said, let's begin. All right, so when we go to an interview, let's remember that when we get that interview call, when a new employer calls you and they want to meet you, they already like you on paper. You have already applied, whether it's in person or online. You have already provided your resume. So you have already caught the recruiters or the HR professionals' attention already, and they want to meet you in person. So an interview is not for you to go in there and repeat everything that you have put on your resume. The information on your resume should be used as a way to enhance your interview. But what the persons interviewing you are looking for is how are you as a person. So it's a great opportunity to sell yourself. Are you a people's person? How are your communication skills? How do you handle yourself in a stressful situation? Because let's face it, an interview could be stressful. You want to make a good impression. You want to make sure that you don't mispronounce any word, or you want to make sure that you come across like you're someone friendly, a team player. So there's a lot of stuff going on that you want to do good. You want to create a great impression, first impression. So it could be a little stressful, and myself included. People do tend to get nervous right before an interview and during the interview. So we're gonna go over real quick on what are your goals and the interviewer's goals, as well as how the interview should go, and what the tips on what you guys should do to land that next great position. All right, so your goals. What are your goals before going into an interview? You want to obtain information about the job and the organization. This is called due diligence. You want to do your small research on the company, because during the interview, there's going to be a point where you'll be able to have a conversation with the person. And what a better way to do a great impression by having a conversation on your research on the company that shows that you took the time to actually learn about what they do, what products they offer, what products they manufacture, and why you should be the next great addition to the team. So you want to obtain information about the job and the organization. You want to determine whether the job is suitable for you and whether you want it. Remember, at our jobs or at work, we are spending more than 8 hours a day, sometimes more than 10 hours a day. So that's more time that you spend at work than with your actual family. So you want to make sure that you land something that you enjoy doing. Imagine doing 40 hours, 50 hours a week of something that you hate doing. That's not pretty healthy. So you want to determine if the job is suitable and whether you want it, right? You want to communicate important information about yourself during the interview. As I said before, you want to sell yourself. You want to show that you are a team player, that you have communication skills, that you can maintain eye contact. Very important. That you're friendly. You're a people's person. You want to communicate important information about yourself. You want to sell yourself, and you want to favorably impress the employer. So now the goals of the interviewer is to promote the company or the organization and attract the best possible candidate. When you go to an interview, you may not be the only person interviewing for the position. There may be 10, 15, 20 candidates for the one position. So you want to make sure you stand out. And one of the goals of the interviewer is to attract the best possible candidate. Okay. They want to gather information about the candidate. They want to gather information about you. Remember, they already like you on paper. They already like you because they've seen your resume. They see that you do have some of those skills that are required for the job. But now they want to know who you are as a person, right? They want to assess how well the candidate's qualifications match the job requirements. This is important. Sometimes the job requirements may not fully match your qualifications. For example, the job may require you to be proficient in Microsoft Office, and you do know how to work well with Word and Excel, but you've never done PowerPoint presentations, or you've never done what's the other one? There's another program that comes with Office. But so you may not be proficient in the whole Microsoft Office suite, but you do know very well Word and Excel. So those are the things that you want to be during the interview. You want to be able to communicate. And as part of this presentation, I'm going to give you guys a little list of questions that you guys should be asking the interviewer. And one of them relates to training. And so that's a great question to ask, because you're going to be able to address if they'll be able to give you training for whatever qualifications you're missing in order to perform the job successfully. Lastly, they want to determine whether the candidate will fit in culturally with the organization and the staff. Every company has a culture, and the culture is pretty much everything that has to do with the employee base and how they relate and how they work. So, for example, the culture at a bank may not be the same work culture as Home Depot. Home Depot people there work in jeans and boots and T-shirts because it's the nature. It's what they're doing. They're dealing with tools. They're dealing with materials and construction materials and all of that stuff. That culture is a little different than working at a bank. A bank is more of a suit and tie scenario where you're meeting with clients, you're sitting down with them. So each company has its culture, and during the interview, the interviewer is actually trying to see if you will fit well with the culture and the staff. So before you go on the interview, as I mentioned before, you want to do a little bit of research about the company. So you want to find out as much as you can about the organization before the interview. You want to know about the products. What products they sell? What services that do they provide? Perhaps they don't have a product that they sell, but they provide a service, right? It's culture. And how do you find out about the culture? Well, there's this social media platform called LinkedIn. And if you guys have heard it before, it is a platform for professionals where you can easily type any company and LinkedIn will give you the employees that belong to that company. And if you want to learn a little bit about the culture, you can always reach out to one of those persons and say, listen, I have an interview coming up next week. And if you could spare a couple of minutes with me, I just want to ask you a couple of questions about how is it to work there. So that would be the best way for you to research about the culture of a company. You want to know about the shifts, very important. If you're going to school in the morning and you want to work in the afternoon, you want to make sure that that shift is available. And locations is also very important. There, you may be interviewing with a company that has multiple locations, and you want to be as close as possible to your home. I don't think that anybody here, I mean, many of us have been forced to do it, but I don't think anyone here is very excited about spending an hour and a half in traffic trying to get to work every morning. So locations is very important as well to check. You want to check out the company's website. That will be the first step to get information about the company. Usually the website will have a link or a tab that says about us, and you'll be able to read about the company's history. You could read about the company's mission statement, their goals, and that's actually the next bullet point here. You want to know a little bit about that. If you're somebody that is your beliefs are, for example, you like the environment, for example. There's many companies out there right now that they're advertising that they're green companies, pretty much that they have taken steps to make sure that they have the environment in mind. If you that would be a perfect match with what you believe in, right? So that's something else that you want to research, that it is a company that goes with your morals and your beliefs, right? That way you can feel comfortable working there. And lastly, you want to Google the company's name. That's also another great way to get information. There may be companies out there that they may have similar names, and there may be competitors. So you want to make sure that you are researching the right company. You don't want to be researching the competitor, right? All right, cool. You also want to review the job description. This actually, and I hope you would have read the job description prior to applying, but you want to revisit it again, because that was going to give you some information on what is to be expected of you on a daily basis. You want to ensure that your experiences, skills, interests, and abilities match the job qualifications. As I said, sometimes they may not be perfect. You may be missing one or two, but there's nothing wrong with that, because we are not perfect. And if you're looking for a position, that doesn't mean that you're going to have all of the qualifications that are required. Sometimes you may, but if you don't, it's not the end of the world. Most companies will provide some kind of training, and they'll want you to treat their customers the way they want you to treat them, right? Also, you want to update your resume and cover letter before going to the interview. If you are applying to multiple companies and you are always changing that opening phrase or opening statement on your resume, you want to make sure that you don't include the name of another company in the resume that you're going to be taking to the interview. So you want to make sure that it's accurate. And you want to talk with someone who currently works at the company or has worked there in the past. And that's, again, when I mentioned before, through LinkedIn, you should be able to connect with people that currently work there. Some people may not have the time to talk to you, but some people may, and you'll never know until you actually reach out to these people and ask if they have a minute or two, so you can ask them a couple of questions. All right, next you want to research salary. Salary is very important because you want to get paid fairly for what you're going to be doing. So you want to research industry salary levels, and that all of this information is public and you can find it on the internet. You want to make a note of the starting salaries for jobs comparable to the one you're seeking. You can also check staffing agencies. Why doing this research is important? It is important because, say the company really likes you, and then they give you an offer letter. If you already know beforehand how much the position is paying, and they are offering you an amount that is very much less than what the average is paying, you can always go back to them and say, hey, listen, I would like to earn, for example, $45,000 for this, to work for you. And then you put the ball on their end. If they really like you and they really want you to work for them, I'm sure that they'll be able to make those changes in order to compensate you what you should be compensated, because they know what the position pays in the market. If you do not do this research, if you don't know what the salary levels are for each position that you're applying for, then whatever they offer you, if you accept, then it's going to be really, really, really hard for you to actually go back to them and say, hey, by the way, you're paying me $10,000 more. I'm sorry, you're paying me $10,000 less than what I should be paid. Can I have them? That usually it doesn't happen, and it will be an uphill battle trying to get that money. So before you start any job, make sure you're compensated well. And if there's a negotiation process that needs to happen, then it needs to happen, right? You have already shown that you have the aptitudes and you have the skills to do the job. Now it's getting paid fairly for what you're going to be doing. And in order for you to negotiate that amount, you need to have done this research. Okay, so very important. All right, so preparing for the interview. Before going to the interview, you want to print a copy of your resume and cover letter. And not only a copy, I highly suggest you go into the interview with at least 4 to 5 copies. The reason is because the person that called you for the interview, that's one person, right? But you don't know if you've been looked at by multiple managers in the company. And now, for the sake of saving time, they want to meet, all of them want to meet you in the one interview, the interview you're going to have. So you may be meeting not with one person, you may be meeting with 2, you may be meeting with 4 or 5 people, right? And you cannot guarantee that all of them have received a copy of your resume for the interview. So what a best way, what a better way to create a good first impression than being prepared and providing these people a copy of your resume. Some of them may have it, but it doesn't hurt to just to be seem like you're prepared. So a big tip: not only one copy, make sure you bring multiple copies, maybe 2, 3, or 4 copies of your resume to each interview you go to. You want to have reference letters available. Most of the times when you apply for a position, on your resume you will have a little blurb or a phrase saying references available upon request. This is the time when they may ask for those references, so you want to be ready. You want to have a reference letter from your previous employer or from a friend, a coworker, that talks about your integrity and how good of an employee you are. Okay. You want to print and have available any accomplishments, like letters from clients, former employees, or recognition letters. And you want to use the information from your research to prepare a list of questions for the interview. So a lot of people are under the misconception that when you go to an interview, it's a one-way street, meaning the interviewer is going to ask you all of these different questions and you're just going to sit there and you're going to answer questions. Actually, that's not the truth. An interview is a two-way street. Yes, during the interview, the company or the interviewer is going to ask you a lot of questions. But towards the end of the interview, the person is going to ask you, do you have any questions for me? And this is your opening for you to now become the interviewer and then become the candidate or the interviewee. So you should be ready with your own list of questions to ask. And I'll give you those questions during this presentation because I've done a little bit of research, and I think that the questions that I'm going to provide to you guys are the ones that will actually really show that you're interested and that you are proactive. Okay, so having a list shows that you're proactive and conveys your interest and enthusiasm in joining the company. Okay, remember, all of these questions also come from your research. Okay, so not all questions will apply for all positions. So you want to make sure that you match the questions to the position and the research that you have made. All right, so communication skills. So once you're in the interview, this is very important. And a lot of people, this is very hard for a lot of people. It was hard for me when I came out of high school and I started interviewing for my first positions. I was very shy, and it was hard for me to maintain eye contact. But this eye contact is one of the most important things that you could do in an interview, because it shows that you're engaged in the conversation. So it is important that you are friendly and use good communication skills during the interview. Practice with a friend, a career counselor, or by videotaping a mock interview. Work on the following communication skills. You want to present yourself in a positive and confident manner. You want to offer a firm handshake. It has to be firm. Now, with COVID and social distancing, that may not be the best way to go. I mean, you could the interviewer is on the same boat as you, and if you guys are both thinking about social distancing and not picking up germs, maybe a handshake is not called for, right? But in the event that you do offer your hand and there is no handshake, please don't take it personal. Maybe this person is following very closely the guidelines from the CDC to avoid um, being contracting COVID, and you shouldn't hold it against them. And the same way goes the other way around. If they offer you their hand, you can easily say, "I would love to shake your hand, but at this moment, I would like to follow the CDC guidelines to avoid COVID exposure." And the person should understand, because we're all in together in this, and we've all been affected by COVID and the pandemic, right? You want to speak clearly and effectively, listen attentively, and maintain eye contact. Now, I was talking before about eye contact. Eye contact is important because it shows that you're interested in what the person is saying, that you are engaged in the conversation. Imagine you talking to somebody and that person is looking up or looking at the window or looking at the wall. Probably get frustrated very quickly, because you'll see that the person is not even paying attention to what you're saying. So eye contact is key. As I mentioned before, in my situation, I had to practice a lot with my brother and my parents in order for me to get over the hurdle of not thinking that by me having eye contact with somebody, I used to think that when people was having eye contact, they were kind of like staring at me, and I felt like I was being judged. So I had to work really hard for me to break through that bad habit and be able to engage. Um, and that doesn't come from one day to another. It comes with practice. So if you know that you have an interview coming up, spend some time, perhaps sitting in front of a mirror and making sure that you're always staring at your own face can help you. Okay, good. Next, dress code. So from your research, make note of the company's culture. Again, going back to my example with Home Depot, if you're going to an interview with Home Depot, perhaps you don't want to go in jeans and t-shirt, because that's the dress code for people already working there. But perhaps you want to go with a nice khakis and a polo shirt, right? Um, if you go there in a suit and a tie, you may be a little bit overdressed for that position, right? So you want to make note of the company's culture. Dress code will vary based on the nature of the company. If it's corporate, like a bank, or if it's industrial, like a factory, or a Home Depot or a Lowe's store. Try to match your attire to that of the company, and make sure that you check with the interviewer before arriving. There's nothing wrong with checking with the interviewer on that aspect. How should you be dressed? Business attire recommendation: avoid flashy colors and cartoon characters on your clothing. Very important. You don't want to have that kind of attention on an interview. You want to make sure that the attention is shared between you and the interviewer. The interviewer shouldn't be distracted by what you're showing on your t-shirt, right? You want to dress for success, wear clothing that boosts your confidence. Your appearance should be neat and clean, pressed and polished. Conservative business attire is appropriate for most settings, not all settings, but most. Okay. Now this is very important, and I always like to read this sentence when I'm presenting this topic. Dress professionally for the interview. Remember that you don't get a second chance to make a first impression. And I don't think there's no other uh, phrase or sentence more true than this one. Once you make that first impression, whether it was good or bad, that was the first one, and there is no way you can make the first impression ever again. So you only get one chance. Next, you want to be punctual. You want to arrive on time. So if your interview is on Monday morning, what should you be doing on Friday? Or Friday, if you have the time, you should be taking the time to drive to the interview and check traffic patterns. Check that there is no construction on the road, because you don't want to have that little surprise Monday morning on your way to the interview and find out that all the streets are closed and now you have to take you have to go around, and now it's going to take an extra 10-15 minutes to get to your destination. So you want to be prepared. You want to do your due diligence. You want to do your research, and part of your research is making sure that you arrive on time. You want to plan to arrive at least 15 minutes early. If not, you don't want it to be more than 15 minutes. 15 minutes is plenty of time. When you want to check with the interviewer once you're there, and once you get in the company, 9 out of 10 times you probably see a receptionist or someone that will have you sit on a waiting area while the person who's going to give you the interview comes out. So you want to use the time waiting effectively. You want to check your appearance. You want to review the questions and answers you prepared. You want to read any company literature that may be on display. You want to take advantage of this time to get a feel of the work environment, and you want to observe your surroundings and interaction among staff. Now, I have a couple of things to say about this, because your interview does not start when you go into that office or you go into the conference room with the person who called you on the phone. Your interview starts when you step foot on that company's lobby. When they have you sit down and wait for the interviewer to come out, there may be people looking at you, seeing how you behave while you wait. They may have multiple magazines, one that talks about their products, and they may have another magazine, Cosmopolitan, right next to it. And they're probably pretty much trying to see what kind of magazine you're going to pick up to read. So you want to have your A game every second while you're there. So you want to make sure that you pick up the right magazine, which is the one that talks about the products, because you're going to be talking about this is your future company, right? Also, you want to make eye contact with everybody that comes in and out. You want to have a smile on your face. If somebody approaches you, make sure that you get up from your seat and you give them a handshake. Why is this important? This is important because you don't know who could be going in and out of that lobby, and it could be the CEO of the company. The owner, the CEO of the company may make it a habit to go out and greet new hires, as just to see how they treat someone that they don't know who it is. And so you always want to have a smile, have eye contact with people, shake hands. You want to appear friendly, because you may kill your resume even before you may kill your interview even before you go in the conference room if you mess up on this. You don't know who it is. They may come up to you, they may say hi to you, they may start small talk, and since you don't know who it is, you should treat everybody with respect and in a friendly manner. All right, good. During the interview, we talked about handshakes again, so it's up to the interviewer and you if you want to do handshakes. Maintain eye contact throughout the interview. You want to answer questions directly. Sometimes there may be a question that you need to stop and think, and there's nothing wrong with that. You may think for 3, 4, 5 seconds. You can even ask the interviewer to give you some time so you can regroup your thoughts and think about your answer. Remember, the interview is a two-way conversation, as I mentioned before. Ask questions, and you may review the list you've prepared. Engage in a dialogue to show you how not knowledgeable you are about the company and the position. And all of that comes from your research. You want to inquire about the company's culture, and you want to be sure to ask about the expectations of the job. Okay. And in the interview, at the end of the interview, you want to thank the interviewer for his or her time. You want to make a statement as why you should be hired. Now, a statement could be very easily said. It's just a couple of sentences long, and it's just something that will actually uh, you want to say to the interviewer on your way out, or as you guys are ending the interview. That way you stand out, because remember, there may be 15, 20 people interviewing for the position. You want to stand out. So if you end the interview with a sentence, something like, it could go something like, you know what, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. I'm really looking forward to working with you, working for you and this great company. I feel like my skills and my knowledge are going to be a great asset to your team. And I'm looking to grow as a person and as an employee and help you reach your yearly goals. Something like that. That sentence will translate to your resume once they're making the decision, the hiring decision. So if you're able to leave the interview on a positive note, in a statement of why you should be working there, that's going to give you an edge over someone that just got up and walked out, right? And also, you want to ask for a business card. Business card is important because you want to do proper follow-up. You want to send out a thank you note, and you want to follow up eventually if you haven't heard from them. And having a business card will give you the exact name and spelling of the name. It'll give you the exact title of the person. It'll give you the phone number, the email address, and all of that is great information to have when you're doing your follow-up. So it is essential that you follow up after the interview. Promptly send an email or a letter to thank the interviewer, emphasize your interest, and state the value that you will bring to the company. All right, so a couple of tips: be confident and anticipate your offer. If offered the position, you and you're not prepared to give a yes or no answer, ask the hiring manager if you could have a couple of days to respond. You want it to be a couple of days, and you don't want it to be a couple of weeks. Remember, the company is looking to fill the position as soon as possible. So they may give you a couple of days for you to respond, but you don't want to extend it more than that, because that will show that you're not interested anymore, and they'll go to the next person. So always, if you're not ready to give a yes right away, ask if you can have some time, but make sure that it's not too much time. All right, so these are some of the questions that you'll be asked at the interview by the interviewer, and this is pretty the way you can kind of like can you can start putting together some answers for them and be ready for these questions. You may not be asked all of them, but you may be asked some of them, right? And what better way to be prepared than seeing the question beforehand and having an answer ready. So tell me about your present or last position. How will you describe your typical workday? What activities did you enjoy most at your last job? How do you deal with conflict? And this is more for people that are going into retail, or you are customer facing people, whether it's at a bank or customer service at a pharmaceutical company, or you work in retail at a department store, you're going to be dealing with people. And how do you deal with conflict is a great question, because they want to know if you are somebody that can diffuse a situation quickly and effectively. Um, just remember that when somebody walks in and it's upset, it's screaming, it's not personal against you. They may be upset at something else. They may be upset at your company, but at the company as a whole, not as you as a person. So you should be able to use that as a way to diffuse the situation and say, you know what, listen, I apologize. You're feeling the way you're feeling right now. Let me help you. Let me see what I can do for you. And you're diffusing the situation. The interviewer will want to know about those situations, right? What was your greatest strength? I'm sorry, what was your greatest contribution to your present past position? And what are the reasons why you left your last job? Okay. All right. So next questions are career aspiration questions. And so these are questions are important, because this is where you're going to show that you're looking to always improve yourself. So what's important to you in a job? A lot of people are different people are motivated by different things. Some people are motivated by money. Other people's are motivated by benefits. Other people by career opportunities and be able to grow as a person, as an employee. So they want to know what's important to you in a job. What position do you expect to hold in 5 years from now? And what are you doing to achieve your career goals, right? Great. Now, this next set of questions are your self-assessment questions. And these ones are a little tougher to answer. And so it's great that you guys get these questions beforehand. That way you guys can start thinking about how am I gonna answer a question like this. So the first one, as an employee, what do you consider is your greatest strength? That's an easy one. We can easily talk about what are our strengths, what's good about us. So you can say something, you know what, I'm very motivated, I'm detail oriented, goal driven, I'm very organized. I mean, there's so many things that you could say about yourself that are good. But the next question, in what areas would you most like to improve, and why? This question talks about your weaknesses. And remember, we're not all perfect. So as the same way as we have some strengths, we may have weaknesses. And now they want to see that the interviewer will want to see how well have you self-assessed yourself. What motivates you, and why did you select this particular field of work? Okay, so all of these questions are great to know the answer to, because it's going to show that you have taken the time to really look inside yourself and find out what are my strengths and what are my weaknesses. Next, questions that determine how the applicant will apply skills, experience, and knowledge to the vacant position. So what attracts you to the job which you are applying? What do you believe qualifies you for this position? What elements of this job would be new to you? And what additional training do you feel is required to achieve your full proficiency? So all of these questions has to do with the actual position. And in order for you to answer these questions, again, going back to what I've preached all afternoon, it goes back to your research, right? So you need to know what the position is about. You need to know what is expected of you in order for you to know what elements of these jobs will be new to you. If you don't know what the job is all about, how would you know what's new and what's not new, right? Okay, great. Now, these are the questions that you should be preparing yourself. So these are the questions that I mentioned you should be taking, so you can ask the interviewer once they give you the opening for you to ask questions. So can you tell me about the company's corporate culture? Okay. Would there be opportunities for advancement? And how long before I may be considered for one? I'm sure that once you guys start a new position, You guys don't want to be there for the next 20 years. You guys want to advance in the company. So that's another fair question to ask. Um, how long before I might be considered for a promotion? What are the job expectations of this job? Can you describe a typical day for someone in this position? So what do they do in the morning? What do they do in the afternoon? This is all information that you probably will not know until you start working. And so pretty cool that you can ask a question and get all of this information before starting the position. That way you know what to expect. And then next, the last question, which is very important: what training do you provide your employees? Very fair question, and it's a question that will speak volumes about who you are, because you show that you're proactively looking to become better. So if they say we have no training, maybe you know that that position may not have the potential to bring the best out of you, because it's not like they're teaching you anything new. So what training do you provide your employees? It's a great question to ask. Another one: why isn't this job being filled from within? Why are you guys looking to hire from someone from the outside and not give the opportunity from someone in the inside, right? How soon do you expect to make a decision? And that's another fair question. If they're in the interview process and that process may last a week or two, you don't want to start calling and following up until that interview process or time is up. So knowing when they're looking to make the decision is great information, so you're not following up prematurely. And lastly, if I'm offered the position, how soon will you need my response? Okay. Some do's, some tips about what you guys should be doing. At the end of the interview, you want to ask the employer when they expect to make the hiring decision. This is pretty much setting up expectations. Pretty much, when should I be calling you back or following up with you? Be proactive and consider follow up as part of your job search process. Follow up can give you just the edge you need to get a job offer over others who interviewed for the same position. And you want to obtain the correct titles and names of all the people who interviewed you. Ideally, they get each person's business card, and that's why business cards are very important in an interview. Some don'ts: please avoid doing this. Don't have any errors like misspellings or typos in your resume, cover letter, or thank you letters. Nowadays, with technology that's easily remedied, you can use spell check. Make sure that you don't have any of those misspellings. Also, don't stop job hunting. Even if you feel confident that you're gonna get this job offer, that doesn't mean that you're gonna get it. And even if you get it, if you stop looking for a job there, you may be missing out on something even better. So just because you went to an interview, just because you feel that you did great in the interview, that doesn't mean that you're gonna get the position. So please do not stop looking for job hunting or looking for a position in another company. And lastly, do not place or send numerous follow-up calls or emails. And that's why it's important to find out about the time frame. When should I be following back up? And that comes from setting the expectations at the end of the interview. Lastly, social media. Nowadays, a lot of companies, a lot of businesses are looking into your social media to see what kind of person you are outside work. So if you have stuff that may not be very sensitive with a work environment while you look for a job, it is recommended that perhaps you go into your social media and you clean it up a little bit. Be careful about what you post on social media sites such as Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or TikTok. Why do companies do that? It's because some companies may have a uniform, right? They may have a polo shirt with their logo and their name on the polo shirt, and If you're a person that goes out partying every Friday, um, right out of work, they may feel a little bit apprehensive about their logo and their company reputation being in some bar. You know what I mean? So so that's kind of like what companies look for. So you want to make sure that while you're looking for a job, you don't have pictures like that, because what you post can impact your ability to get the job. You want to use good judgment about what you post. Okay, good. All right, great. So this brings my presentation to an end. At this point, I would like to open up the floor for any questions that any one of you may have. As I mentioned before, I am going to share an email with the recording for this presentation. So you're more than welcome to send me a follow-up question if you feel that you want to ask me the question on a one-on-one basis kind of thing. If not, then this is the time for you guys to ask the questions. All right, so let me take a look at if there's any questions right now. Okay, so I do see a question here, and it says, "What if this is your first job? I am 16 years old, and this will be my first job. What would be some questions they would ask me?" So for the young crowd out there, and if this is your first job, hey, listen, when you go to the interview, the interviewer is going to know. They're gonna see you. They're gonna see your age. Um, they're going to know that you may not have enough experience, or that you don't have a track record of previous employers that you've been with. So I want to believe that an interview for someone at that age may be a little lighter. It may not have very questions so uh, difficult to answer, questions that are difficult to answer. I mean, some of the questions that they may ask you could be, what do you like to do on your free time? If you were to be hired at this company, do you think you will be able to manage both your school schedule and your work schedule? They may offer you a part-time job, because of course a lot of companies out there may be interested in making sure that you do well in school. So they may not offer you a full-time job that is 40 hours a week, and then expect you to be a good employee when you're struggling with homework and class. So once you're there, the questions may change, and I think that will go with the interview, as they see how old are you, and the fact they find out the fact that you may not have that much experience in the work field, in the workplace, right? So so I wish you the best of luck. I mean, I was once 16, and I remember my first interview, and I was very nervous. um, but you'll grow, and you'll get experience. So I wish you the best of luck in your next interview. Good. Next question. What is a good answer to the question? Can you share some of your weaknesses? So great question. Thank you so much for asking that question. So a good answer to that question could be, you know what? Listen, I feel like I am struggling with the going back to my example with PowerPoint, with Microsoft Office, right? So, and I noticed that in your job description, PowerPoint, Word, and Excel are required. That could be an answer, right? I need more training. So, would you guys provide? You can always switch the question that they ask you and switch it back to them to find out if they'll provide you some training. Another one is the fact that, you know what, we're all so worried about doing having a great impression, that's why these questions are hard to answer. So if they said, you know what are some of your weaknesses, another great answer could be, you know what, I need to better manage my time. right? So I've struggled in the past, and being honest is better than actually not mentioning it and hurting yourself after you get the job and they see that you struggle with your time management, right? So you could say something like, you know what, in the past, in my previous job, they had a great system for me to, for them to help me with time management, because there's so many projects out there that sometimes it was a little difficult for me to prioritize what project was the most important. So that could be another answer. I would need to work closely with my manager and my coworkers to find the best strategy in order for me to um, manage my time well, right? Great, thank you. What if you're a more mature working and not interested in climbing the corporate ladder, and therefore your career goal is retirement in 5 to 7 years? For those of you that are already up there and looking to retire in the next 5 to 7 years, there's nothing wrong with not asking those questions, right? Yeah, they may ask you, you know what, where do you see yourself in 5 years? You could easily say, you know what, I see myself retired. You know, this is I want to make sure that I end my working career with a bank, working for a great company like yours. But I don't see myself working for the next 20 years. I see myself working for the next 5 to 7. So, and there's nothing wrong with that, you know, because you're being honest. um that way, and actually answering a question like that will give them, the employer, a time frame that they'll know that in about 5 to 7 years they're going to need to start um hiring for this position again. But remember, your experience will actually make up for not being there for the long run, because if they already called you for an interview, they like you in your resume, and you're ready to retire, that means that you have a lot of experience and you bring a lot to the team. So this could, even though the answer may be a little kind of like you're turning them off because you're already telling them that you're going to retire in 5 years, uh, it'll be made up by your experience and the skills that you bring, you know? So, yeah, I mean, just being honest, I think it's the best, but giving them that time frame, it's very important as well. So thank you so much for the question. Next question. I've been on my current job for 23 years. How would I answer a question as to why I wanted a career change? And this is a great question. And what can I say? 23 years. You know what? There's always, people's interests change all the time. And it might have taken you 23 years to realize that you want a career change. You want to do something different. So when they ask you, you know, why do you choose this field of work? You can say something like, you know, I've spent my last 23 years working in, for example, pharmaceutical, and I see myself, now that I'm a little bit more mature, that I like talking to people. I don't like to be in a lab all day. So I want to be customer service now. I want to work for a bank. I want to interact with people. I want to find out about their needs and how I can help them become better in their financial status, right? Something like that, right? Um, you can actually elaborate on why is it, what makes you happy in this new endeavor that you're gonna go into. Um, and you don't have to say that the last 23 years of your life were lost, because still 23 years worth of experience and worth of work experience and skills. uh, but we the human being can change and usually adapts to different environments. So your likes and dislikes may change over time, and you can use that as part of your answer when they ask you that question. All right, great. Next question. Can we get a copy of your notes? That's a lot to remember. Yeah, so I'm going to share this recording, so you guys will be able to rewatch this whole recording at your leisure. And also, I will share, and thank you so much for bringing this up. In the follow-up email, I will share the slides as well, because even though you guys will see them on screen with the recording, it's always better just to go open up the presentation and go to slide 23 when I'm talking about the questions to what to ask, right? So I'll share the presentation with all of you as well. No problem. All right, next question. What is a good way to mention the reasons why you were fired from your previous job? All right. I don't know if you want to say that you were fired, right? That's a pretty heavy, very heavy word to say in an interview. You could turn it around as to when they ask, why you left your last job, and of course you don't want to lie, because as part of your background check and your references, it may come up about the fact that you were fired, but you don't want to say I was not fired, or I left in my own terms, but you want to answer the question as in a way that you can actually take advantage of the answer. So what I'm trying to say is, when they ask you why you left, you can say, what, hey, listen, I worked there for 2 to 3 years, and it got to a point where I think I was looking for another opportunity, and the synergies between my manager and I were not the best. So it got to a point where it was more beneficial for me and for the company if we parted ways. So you're not pretty much saying that you were fired. You're not saying that you left on your own terms. You're just saying we parted ways because it was better for them and for me, as for my career. So that's why I'm looking to enhance and to become a better employee somewhere else. Okay. Next question. Thank you so much for that previous question. Next question. How can I explain my multiple years hiatus from my previous career due to unexpected health issues and caregiving for a now past relative? So this is a great question, and actually I lived through it, because before joining Affinity, I had taken about 6 months, and it wasn't multiple, it was just 6 months, but I did take 6 months to take care of my grandmother, who then passed away. And you just have to be honest. You have to be honest, and you have to explain about the fact that, listen, a family relative, very sick. There was nobody to take care of them, and I was stuck with providing this care. And actually, that will work volumes about who you are as a person, right? That you are somebody responsible, that you sacrifice your career, you sacrifice your time and your earning potential in order to take care of this person. So instead of adding a negative connotation to your answer, you could make it positive. So you could say something, like this person, this family relative, he was very sick, and I decided to. I think that life is very important for all of us, and this person needed my help, so I decided to take a hiatus of my work career and take care of him. Unfortunately, that the person passed away, and now I'm ready to continue my career, but it was an unfortunate situation, and that I was kind of forced into, but I don't have any regrets, and I think that will give it a positive connotation to your answer, right? Great. Next, how do you get interviewer names, titles, contact info when it is a virtual interview? Same as to send follow-up and thank you letters. Great question. Nowadays, virtual interviews are more and more common. And more sometimes if you're, for example, interviewing for a pharmaceutical, many of those pharmaceutical main offices are abroad in Germany, France, and you're interviewing with people not only out of state but out of the country. So it is not a bad question to ask before the interview ends for the contact information of all of them. But for an interview, for a virtual interview, I would say that you could really ask about a follow-up email. So if you could say, you know what, I would love to send you a thank you email. What would be the best email? And then that would be the door opening for you to ask for a full name, a right spelling, a title. When you go to a in-person interview, you're gonna want to ask for business cards. But when you do a virtual, it's kind of hard to ask for a business card, but you can still ask for the information. And there's nothing wrong with telling them, as part of my follow-up, I would love to reach out to the right person, the right title. So can you please share with me what your name and your title is, and your email and your phone number? And nothing wrong with that at all. Okay, great. Next question. Would you recommend someone refrain from mentioning personal motivations for wanting a job? For example, wanting to work at a medical device company because someone in your family had the disease that they're trying to prevent. That's a good question, and it depends. I would say, I mean, there's nothing wrong with you sharing that you have a family member that uses their products. I mean, that's actually a great thing to mention, because I'm not only want to work for you, I'm actually a consumer of your products. So that could actually open up the door to a great conversation about. Then the interviewer is going to ask you, okay, how is the product with your family member? How do you guys like it? What do you guys like? What do you guys don't like? And now, instead of you becoming an interviewer, now you're becoming a kind of like someone that is kind of like reviewing their products, right, in a friendly manner. So I would say that it would be harmful to mention it. Actually, now that I think of it, it could only work. I mean, you could always bring up that about the fact that, you know, my family member uses your products, and she or he is very happy, and that's one of the motivators why I want to work for you, is because I see how happy my family member is with your products. And I think that you could actually use that for your advantage as a way to have that conversation, and again, stand out. You want to stand out, right? The person in the future, a week from now, when they're reviewing the resumes to make the hiring decision, they'll remember that you're the person who has an uncle who uses their products, and if it was a pleasant conversation, he'll remember that. So that's another way to have a good a first impression, a great first impression. Last question of the afternoon so far. What is the best way to negotiate your salary? As mentioned in the presentation, you want to do some research, right? You want to know what is the average of what's paying for that position at other companies. And if you see that you are being lowballed, right, they're offering you less money, you can always come back and say, you know, listen, I think that what I bring to the table, my skills, my experience, and the job that you're looking for me to perform, I think that I will want to be compensated X amount, right? $30,000 or 40,000 or 60,000. And you put in the ball on their court. They know, all companies know how much is the average for starting salaries. So if you are going to negotiate up and they really want you, they may meet you halfway. You know, they may increase your salary and meet you halfway. Remember, this is the time you want to use to negotiate this amount. Once you start working, it's really hard to negotiate an amount because you already started. So it's an uphill battle from there. Something else that I want to mention, when there's in different companies, different positions have a range in salary, right? So for example, if you're going, your range is a 4, for example, that means that your position will pay from 35,000 a year to $50,000 a year. They may start you at the lower end or in the middle. They may not start you towards the end of the spectrum. Because why do they do that? It's because every year you're gonna get a review. Every year you're gonna get a promotion. So let's say it takes you 3 years for you to move up the ladder, for example, and you're towards that end, you're hitting that cap. There's no more room for them to give you more money unless they go ahead and change the structure of the positions. So they're going to start you towards the middle, if not towards the lower end and not the upper end. And the reason why they do that is because they want to leave some space for when your review time comes, year after year, they're able to give you a raise. It's not that they don't want to pay you the high amount when you start, but if they do pay you the end of the spectrum when you're starting, then a year later or 6 months later or 8 months later, when review time comes around, there's not going to be any space left for them to give you a raise. So that's why most employers will start you off in the mid range or towards the low range. Okay, great. Next question. How do you explain your hiatus when you have been laid off by your previous employer due to changes in your personal health? Regarding becoming permanently disabled unexpectedly, then the employer let you go as a medical liability. And this is a tough one. You know what? For this question, I don't want to give you the wrong answer, and I think that your question has a lot of merit. So what I'm going to do, I work at Affinity. I work for external affairs. So I do education. I do all of these different webinars, and I know a lot about a lot of stuff, but this is more specified to your situation. So what I'm going to do, and to this member, is I'm going to share your information with our human resources director, and I'll have her give us her input on what would be the best way to explain in an interview your situation, because it is tough. And if you've been permanently disabled and then you were let go because of this disability, how can you explain something like that? So I understand where you're coming from, and I apologize if I don't have the answer, because again, I don't work for human resources. I work for external affairs, so different departments. But I promise I will get you the answer once I get some input from our own HR professionals and our HR director. Okay, great. Lastly, this is just a comment. This webinar was great and extremely helpful. Thank you so much for hosting this. Okay, thank you so much. It's my pleasure. This was the last comment of the afternoon, so it's my pleasure. That's what I'm here for. I hope everybody found it interesting and that it can help you. Again, I'm going to share this recording and the slides with all of you. And for that member with the previous question, I'll forward your information, your question towards to my HR department, and I'll have that answer back to you as soon as I can. Okay. With that said, I would like to bring this to a close. Thank you, everybody, for attending this afternoon. I hope you guys have a great afternoon, and I'll see you guys next week. Thank you. Have a good one. Bye-bye.